Before we get going, I quickly want to mention that there's a blog post I put up on learncreategame.com/techart/Houdini environment setup that basically houses a lot of the code snippets and things that you will see that we'll go through today. So the Houdini environment is a bunch of paths and variables that basically tells Houdini where to find various resources, such as Python scripts, shelves. There's a number of resources that the program keeps track of. And we can basically inject our own paths to tell it where to look for certain types of resources, which gives us the freedom to basically store those tools and resources anywhere we want. We're going to set up the Houdini environment for our own purpose in such a way that each person on the team that will consume your tools and resources can each store it in a unique location. So we're going to go through and set up the Houdini environment the right way so that we can distribute our tools and resources. And we're also going to automate the setup. There's some foreshadowing over here with these installer, uninstaller digital assets. So we're going to go through and automate the setup. And I'll also show you how to add hooks so that you can basically run scripts before the scene is saved, after the scene is saved, and when the scene is open, and anything else kind of that we want. These are very useful little hooks for you to basically set preferences and other things. So let's get going. So here we are in Houdini in basically a default install. I've customized the technical desktop the way I kind of like it. But besides that, everything is pretty much default. So let me show you the little framework kind of that we want to add into the Houdini environment. So I have Learn Create Game here. And so we have Python scripts. Here is basically our LCD Python library. So we want to add the Python to the system path for Houdini so I can import my own custom Python scripts. And here's the Houdini path that we want to append to the environment so that Houdini can find all these keyworded folders. So the way people used to do this, I am going to go to the preference folder, is through this guy, houdini.env. And basically everyone would fight for this one file to append resources to the environment. And it gets messy over time when people add more and more stuff. So there's now a much better way, and it's called packages. And there's a packages folder that you create here, and you can drop in a JSON file, and that is called a package. So all the packages that are in this packages folder in the user preference directory will automatically get triggered when Houdini boots up. So that gives you an opportunity to basically, you can create many of these, one per job, but you can divide it any which way you want. So we're gonna create a package manually here. So let's create a directory called packages. And let's create a new package called lcg.json. Yes. And here we're going to put in this little piece of code here. So there's a lot of things you can do with the packages. You can compare Houdini versions and you can go really complex. But the really cool thing, the stuff that we end up putting in the end user's local user preferences is very, very minimal and should never need to change thanks to this guy. So side effects added a package path, which basically allows you to call packages in a different directory, so you can start daisy chaining these. Now, so basically we're going to add our little framework Houdini folder, the one with all the keyworded folders here, so that Houdini can find our digital asset, presets, Python panels, and a bunch of scripts that we'll go through. And we'll, just for naming sake, this folder could be called anything, but inside of here you can put other packages that basically when this is being called, those will get triggered too. So we can add all of our complexities into that package, because now that allows you to basically distribute those packages if you want to via source control, so that when you need to add extra OTL scan path, basically digital asset directories during the course of the project, you can just do so, check it into Perforce, and everybody's environment will automatically update because this is already in place. And before we go through the steps to basically automate this, I want to show you kind of what's in this directory. We're going to save this guy, but inside of this that we're adding to the Houdini path, this is basically a short hand for the capital Houdini path. This will just append it. Inside of here, we have a script that is called Python RC that will automatically trigger when Python starts up. So once we've added this for a package path, we can now close Houdini and reboot. And when Houdini reboots, this file will be run. And inside of this file, this is where we have basically we can inspect where this is being run from. And based on where that is, we know the internal structure of our framework will remain consistent, so that we know where the Python path lies that we want to basically append to the sys path. So here we're basically building up the root to the Python and appending it to the system path. And we also have third-party libraries that we're going to add to the as a root path in the sys path also. We also add PySide if it's not already, like the forced UI stuff will help you when you integrate your own PySide 2 stuff. And you can do any number of things here. You can put random variable names, you can define the job variable, and things like that. So it's a very, very handy spot. So here we are back in Houdini, and I got this little printout in the console because we had that print statement in the Python RC file right here. So it triggered that and added the our Python path to the environment. So now I can just go import LCG, and then LCG, I have a static variable for the tool root in there, and basically now we know sort of where the end user is running this Python code from, which is very, very useful for building paths to various things. So now let's take a look at how we can basically automate this for the end user. We don't want them to open up files and paste in JSON code and things like that. So I closed down Houdini and I deleted the packages folder and booted back up. So we're going to automate the setup of that package folder through Houdini Digital Asset. And it's going to be very, very simple. So I'm just going to go ahead and start here by dropping down a null node. And then we're going to click on this button right here to create a subnet from selected. And from the subnet, we can create a digital asset. So I'm going to go ahead and save it into our framework here under framework LCG setup installer.hda. And the operator name, I always put a namespace in front of the Houdini digital asset. So the way you do that is learn, create game, and then a double colon. So now it's in that namespace. The reason I do that is many times you're going to kind of want to hunt down your own nodes and scenes and maybe do something to them. And it's very easy to do so if you put all your nodes in a namespace like that. So then we're just going to name it installer. And I also put a version number like this. The label, that's just installer. And then we just go ahead and save it. So once we save our digital asset, we get this properties window, and this is very, very powerful. There are so many features to the digital assets. I love them. So the first thing is to pick out an icon that we kind of dig. So we click on this little icon right here, and then we can go into this hi icon folder and dive into the index. And I have the file that I want right here. It's basically this little plug that plugs in. We can just apply here and you'll see it. So that's kind of fitting, I thought. That's all we're going to do in this section. Next, we're going to go into the script area, and we're going to create a callback for our HDA. First, we're going to create a Python module, and then we're going to create onCreated. This creates two internal Python modules to this digital asset. Just make sure that you have Python selected in this edit as area here. So in the onCreated callback, we're going to put in this code. And don't worry about like writing down all the code here. Just so you know that that web blog post that I wrote has all the source code and things like that, so you can just easily go in here and copy and paste it. So just go to learncreategame.com/techart/Houdini environment setup. So this callback will basically pass the node. This quargs is the dictionary that carries kind of all the useful information about like a particular event being executed. So the quargs node is the node itself, and then it says the HDA module, which is basically the node's internal Python module. And then it's going to look for a function called onCreated, and then it's going to pass itself. So we're going to create this function over in the Python module. So let's hop over there, and here's the code for that. So we have our onCreated and the node is coming in. So we're going to set a name of the node and what action is happening. Because if the module already exists, then we're going to switch this to being an update. But we're also going to set a node color right here to a color class. And then we can set a different color if we update the framework instead of installing it from scratch. So here we're kind of setting a default of the node to the install. And that here's how you set the node shape. So you can see that if you hit Z in the network panel, we can see all these different node shapes that you can set. So this is how you kind of set that on a digital asset. So we're setting the color to, or the user data, the node shape, to this type on the node that we pass in here to the onCreated function. So then we query where the user, so in the end, the user will actually browse to this thing, or you can actually, this is really cool, you can double click it outside of a Houdini session and it will launch Houdini and create the node itself. But this line right here, basically it takes the HDA where it sits on disk. So then from there, since we know our internal framework structure, we can figure out how to find the Python, the Houdini path that we want to append, because it's within that framework. And then likewise, we can figure out the path to the package folder that we want to call other packages from. So here we're getting the package in the form of a template, and really you could use JSON and write this code from JSON module, but I just kind of wanted to show this. This is really cool. You can store extra data over here in this extra files section. So we're gonna go ahead and jump over there. So we go to the extra files, and in the section name, we're going to call it a package template. And then you just say add empty section here. And then we can basically put in our template like this. So we're basically, this is the package file, but we're going to replace this at _ Houdini path with our Houdini path that we figured out, and the same thing with the package path. And another template that we're going to have is a success message. So we're going to go ahead and click apply here, and then type in success message and say add empty section. And the success message is going to be a PySide2 pop-up window, and so we can do some HTML formatting here. So the same thing, we're going to go and read it in and basically replace these keyworded things with the paths and the messages that we want to convey. Let's hit apply and jump back to the code. So this is how we read in that package template that we created. So you go node type definition section, there's a dictionary in which there's the package template and its content. So now we have the string, and then we can replace the keyworded thing for Houdini path there with the actual Houdini path, and same thing with the packages. We're also going to go ahead and create a parameter on this digital asset so that the user, once this has been installed, you select it, you can see kind of what happened and what was set there. But we'll talk about that a little later. Here we're building up the path to our package directory. This is handy, so you can get the environment variable for the Houdini user pref directory for whatever version you're executing from. And then if that does not exist, we need to create it first. So we're creating that folder if it doesn't exist already. And here we're building the file path to the package itself, lcd.json. And if it exists, again, we're changing the node name to being updated and the action to update. And then we're setting a different node color basically for an update. And here we're writing the package path. And then we're going to go ahead and create our show our success message. So again, we're accessing that extra file section, the contents of the success message, and replacing it again so we can give the user some feedback. And then we show it right here, queue message box, and we're parenting it to the main window of Houdini, and we're formatting the header there with the action name, and we're also setting the node name. So if we go ahead and click apply and accept, and let's save this digital asset, save node type. I almost forgot. Let's go back and create those parameters that we're actually setting. Otherwise, we're going to get a big fat error if those doesn't exist. So we're going to go here to the parameter interface. So this is where when you have this selected, this is the interface you see over here. So we're not going to want to show all this default transform data. So we can just turn that to invisible, and we can turn this to invisible. And when we click apply, you'll see that sort of disappears. Now we have a clean user interface. So we're going to make it very, very simple. We're going to go ahead and create 2 strings. And one of them was that name, Houdini path. And then we can just say Houdini path added or something. I mean, this is sort of the label. And hit apply. Another thing I like to do, because this is now going to be selectable by the user, you can go in here, say disable when you can make a little expression 0 is smaller than 1. That should be true for most of the time, if not always. So now that grays out, so then whatever string we say here the user can't really check it, so it's read only basically. We're going to do the same thing for this label over here. And let's see what that was set to. That was the package path. Name that package path and just go path added. There, no, those 2 things exist. So let's save it, and there we go. Another thing that you really can do is go in here and just delete this null. We really just need the shell of this thing. So now let's give that a whirl. Let's go to File, Import Houdini Digital Asset, and I have it on the path there to the installer, Framework Setup Installer. So now we just click Install and Create, and boom, this pops up. So it didn't exist, so it was installed. And then please restart Houdini for change to take effect. And there's our little light bulb with the color set for being installed. Basically, if we now create another one, if we just go import Houdini Digital Asset and this triggers again, now it's going to say it's updated, and there's our update version, and we can go back and take a look that this packages directory has been written and that this file is in place. So there it is. So now if we restart Houdini, so now Houdini is restarted, and I can just go ahead and import learn create game here, and we now have access to our own Python code. So now there's the tool root, there's where it's running from, and that is thanks to the RCG that I explained about earlier. So the blog post explains everything in detail and all the source code and how to add in all your hooks. And it's pretty simple, really. Like once you have that Houdini path, you have a couple of keyworded folders. The script is one, and there's a great documentation page on side effects, and that's also listed in the blog post on what keyworded scripts you can insert here. So here's one for before scene save. There's also one after scene save. There's a file that you can insert in the Python 2.7 libs, I think it is. It's got a 123.py and a Houdini core.py. Those two will basically run when you open Houdini without a scene. And then there's a 456.py that runs if you are opening a scene, which basically allows you to set preferences or scene defaults or anything like that. But those resources are listed over on the blog post. So here's toolbar. We can drop in custom presets to any node. This is super handy, I find. So any node that you have created, you can create a preset. Packages contains daisy chainable packages because our package file in the user pref directory is now calling this. So look at the side effects documentation on all you can do with packages and put all that complexity in here. You can do version comparison and all sorts of things. And this is where you can drop your own custom digital assets. I hope this was helpful. If you find it helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.